Hello and welcome to Gardening with Ben, the award-winning gardening podcast as voted for by the Grow Your Own magazine and by my followers and by my listeners. I hope that you have all clicked that subscribe button. If you're new to the podcast channel, please do click the subscribe button and then you get notified of all the new podcasts that get launched. And if you're not following me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and TikTok, make sure you look for Gardening with Ben and follow me on all my social medias. So sit back, relax, grab a brew and let's enjoy today's gardening podcast with Ben. Hello and welcome back to Gardening with Ben for another brand new episode. So yesterday we talked about all the jobs what needed doing in the garden and the allotment in October. So today's episode is going to be talking about what can we plant during October. As there's still lots you can continue to plant. You might be finding it difficult with it getting colder, but there is certain stuff what can still be grown. And make the most of it and fill them gaps up and get growing some stuff throughout the winter period. Especially now that the cost of living and all that. So the more we can grow and save money, the better really. So yeah. So what we usually do is we usually go through what can be planted in the vegetable garden, what can be planted in the fruit garden, and what can be planted in the flower garden. So usually I tell people to make a note of these so that they can check through and see what they would like to grow afterwards. Or you can just keep on continuing listening to the episodes and get the stream times up. But yeah. The best way is to make notes of what needs to be planted this month. So feel free to make notes and come back to them later. So first off, we're going to talk about what can be planted in the vegetable garden. So there's quite a few things what can be planted in the vegetable garden in October. And the first thing is that you can plant asparagus crowns during this month. So if you're wanting to grow some asparagus, these can be planted this month, but make sure the beds are well prepared and add some nutrients and some fertilizer in there, and then you will get better crowns and better asparagus. Basil. You can plant basil on your windowsills this month or in a warm greenhouse. We will be talking later on about how we can keep us greenhouse warm during the winter months, so stay tuned for that episode. Broad beans. Now, if you've got a winter hardy variety of broad beans, these can be sown in the ground now, ready for next year. And usually growing broad beans early means that you get an earlier produce, and also you don't get the black fly on them because they produce the crops a lot earlier. Cauliflower. Sow an all year round crop this month and they will keep growing in the greenhouse, and then plant them out in the springtime. So they can be one of the first things that you can plant out in the garden in the springtime once you've got them growing throughout the winter period. Chives. You can sow chives in October, again on a windowsill or in a warm greenhouse. The same goes for dill, so we can plant plenty of herbs this month. So the main one next is garlic. Everybody needs to start planting their garlic this month because you can get some great produce from it. And garlic is really easy to grow, and again I'll be doing an episode on how to grow garlic, so stay tuned for that one coming up. Green manure. Now, if you've got any empty beds on your allotment or in your garden, planting this in your beds over the winter will help add nutrients to the soil, and it will improve fertilization within the soil itself. So fill all them beds up with some green manure seeds and improve your soil while there's nothing in them. Lettuce. You can sow winter varieties of lettuce in October. So if you're wanting some lettuce, have a look around and try and find some winter varieties of lettuce. Onions. You can plant autumn onion sets this month. Growing onions throughout the winter period, you stand a better chance of getting some nice big ones ready to pull in June time. Peas. You can plant peas in October, but they need to be a winter hardy variety variety. You need to make sure that they say on the packet that they are a winter variety of peas. Spring onions, you can start these off this month in cold frames or under clotches, or in the polytunnel for harvests come early springtime. Winter salad leaves as well. You can sow winter salad leaves this month for crops all the way throughout the winter period. So that is everything that you can sow in the vegetable garden in October. So next up, we're going to talk about what you can sow in the fruit garden and what you can plant, because wintertime is the perfect time to get planting fruit, trees, bushes, anything regarding fruit. It's the ideal time because the weather is perfect for planting them. So what can we plant in the fruit garden this month? This month we can plant as blueberry plants. Now, if you're wanting to grow blueberries, because blueberries are expensive to buy in the supermarket, you can plant these this month. The best soil to plant blueberries in, though, is ericaceous compost, as that is the variety that it likes for it to grow well. So I grow my blueberry plants in pots, and I've sunk them into the ground so that they don't fall over. So yeah, try growing some blueberry plants, and if you don't want to grow them in pots, just make sure that you put ericaceous compost into the ground so that it has the best variety to be growing. Next up is fruit trees. Now again, this is a perfect time to be growing fruit trees. You'll probably notice them starting to appear in the supermarkets, in the garden centres, and some places you can get them really cheap. Now I grew mine from really cheap ones. I bought some at the end of the season and they were very cheap. I bought some like at £2 they'd been reduced to, and they're doing really well. And yes, there'll be a while before they get some fruit on them, but some that I've had in my plot for 16 years, they are doing absolutely fantastic. You'll have seen from the photos on Instagram how well they are growing. Last up for the fruit garden is rhubarb crowns. Now it's the ideal time to plant them when they are dormant, as they don't grow during the winter months. Obviously they're good to get in the ground at this time because the ground is wet, it's soft. You don't want to be planting them when it's frosty and too hard to plant them. So yeah, if you're wanting to grow rhubarb crowns, plant them this month. But remember not to pick them in the first year, as they need to take hold, they need to get growing. I know it's very tempting when you see the rhubarb growing on it, but don't pick them till they've been in a year. So yeah, that is everything that you can plant in the fruit garden. Now, what can we plant in the flower garden? You might think, well, it's getting towards winter time, there's nothing much that you can be growing in the flower garden at this time of year. Well, you are wrong. It's now the perfect time to get planted certain flowers ready for next year, as some take quite a while to get growing. So yeah, it's the ideal time. Obviously now is the perfect time to start planting all your bulbs. You'll have seen from my pictures on Instagram that I've been planting absolutely hundreds of bulbs. I've still got loads and loads left to plant. It's going to look an absolute stunning spring display this coming year. And you obviously can plant your alliums. These can be planted. The bees absolutely love alliums for some bizarre reason. It must be the pollen in them that they absolutely love, but alliums are perfect for attracting bees. You've got your daffodils, they can be planted. Tulips can be planted, and yeah, any other sort of spring bulb can be planted. But just remember to protect them from rats and squirrels, because they will try and get the bulbs out of the ground. I've put netting over all mine to stop, well, try and prevent them. If they want them, they will get them, but I've really put some netting down to give them that extra protection. Next up is Aquilegia. You can sow this in a warm greenhouse for planting out in the springtime. Obviously, if your greenhouse isn't warm at this time of year, try sowing some indoors, and just remember that to give them enough light to get growing well. Clematis. Again, this is a perfect time to plant a clematis plant. I've planted a couple on my plot. They seem to be taking alright, and yeah, I can't wait to hopefully get some great flowers on them eventually. Cornflowers. These can be sown directly this month into the ground, ready for blooms next year. You can also plant them around March time, which I tend to do, as obviously you lose track of where things are, so I tend to plant mine in March time, but you can sow them now. Hollyhock, sow these this month in a greenhouse for planting out in the springtime. Poached eggplant, we used to have some of this at my old house and it's absolutely glorious and it trails all over the ground, it's brilliant. This can be sown directly in the ground this month so that it will add some beautiful flowers for next year. Poppies, you'll be able to go around and find poppy heads everywhere from all the poppies what are around. Dry them out, crack them and spread them all over in your flower beds for great displays next year's. Primulas, you can sow primula plants this month in the ground ready for flowering over the winter period. Sweet peas, you can actually start sweet peas off this month for planting out in the springtime. Starting them off now will get them stronger and hopefully flower for longer next year. Winter pansies, everywhere's selling winter pansies now. You'll be able to get them anywhere you want, and if you wanted to add some colour what will last throughout all winter, winter pansies are the plants to go for, and I'll definitely be going out and getting some of those for the front of my border once I've cleared it all, because I've still got all my summer flowers flowering in there. They're doing absolutely fantastic at the moment. I don't want to pull them out yet. I want them to keep on flowering, but I need to get it ready for springtime soon. So yeah, it's a funny situation. Do I take out all my summer plants and plant all my spring bulbs, or do I wait for them to all die back? We'll wait and see. We'll leave them in for a bit longer and see how they get on. But yeah, that is everything that you can plant in your allotments and gardens throughout the October period. So there is plenty to keep you going and keep you gardening really. And there's always stuff what needs doing in the allotments and gardens. And if you didn't listen to yesterday's episode, have a listen to it, because that's talking about all the jobs which need doing in the garden and the allotment this month. And I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. I do them on a regular basis. Do click that follow button and subscribe button and you'll get notified when new podcasts are uploaded. And if you've got any suggestions of what podcasts you'd like to listen to, please do send me a message on Instagram. It's always great to hear from all my followers. So until next time, remember, keep smiling, keep gardening, and keep listening to Gardening with Ben's podcasts. Thank you for listening to today's Gardening with Ben's podcast. I hope that you've enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do click that subscribe button and feel free to share it as well on your Instagram stories. All you have to do if you're listening on Spotify is click the share button and you can share it straight to your Instagram story for all your followers to listen to and help build my listeners up as well and get more people listening to it. Feel free to check out all my social medias, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and TikTok. Yes, I'm on TikTok. Go check it out. Check out my dancing. Gardening with Ben. And check out the link as well in the description of this podcast where you can check out my gardening t-shirt shop where I sell funny t-shirts with all different funny logos and designs on. And feel free to support me by purchasing one, and all the money obviously goes back into my allotment where I can share more gardening tips with you all. So until next time, remember, keep smiling, keep gardening and keep listening to Gardening with Ben's podcasts.